Good morning, Flosstube. It's Caroline of Caroline's Corner here in Leeds in the UK. It is Thursday the 2nd of January and I have sat down to record my promised WIP Parade. I know this will come as a shock to those of you who are used to watching me and know generally there's quite a long gap between my videos, but I thought I'd try and jump on and do a WIP Parade because I've not done one for a while and I'm hoping to try and get the WIP pile down a little bit this year. So welcome if you're new here, and thank you to everyone who is a returning viewer. Please do subscribe, comment. Thank you to everyone who's commented on my last video. I know I've not replied just quite yet, but I will do in the next couple of days. So I've got my trolley with all my WIPs on. This last year I got my WIPs down to 50. I had 13 finishes last year. Most were small to medium, so that's what got finished. I do need to try and make some progress on my big ones, but as you will see, they're kind of, a lot of them are still quite close to the start, shall we say. So this year is going to be just about progressing some of those WIPs. Hopefully finishing a few, but mostly about progressing. So, also, as you can see, I don't really go in for fancy project bags. Most of my project bags are things that I use as project bags are recycled Amazon gift bags. Just because I prefer to spend my money, my funds, my budget for cross stitch on events and actual stitch. So, sorry. I will, but I might pick up a few here and there. But yeah, most of them are either Amazon gift bags, these mesh bags which I acquired quite early on, or just Ziploc bags. Which is why I don't normally show project bags when I'm showing my WIPs. So I have my Aquith memory book, which has got all my, when I start my list of projects and when they were started. So we will crack on. The first project I'm going to show you is a class piece from 2013. This is my current focus piece, so you did see it in my last video. It is called Along the James River, Williamsburg bound by Forget Me Nots in Stitches, and this will be a sort of sewing case when it's finished. So before the class in 2013, I got the front completely finished. It has a beautiful scene with a house and a river on it. This is the inside of the case, and then there will be pockets that go on these panels, and the pockets are what I'm working on now. So if you watched my last video, you know I said I was going to do a 10-hour rotation. So I have actually completed my 10-hour rotation on this piece. I am working on the Bargello pocket. And so all bar, I think I was at sort of, I was on the 4th row of Bargello. I just started it. So that's 10 hours stitching. I'd already got these 2 pockets stitched. I say working on the flame stitched one now. So I should finish that in the next rotation round, and then there's one more to go. And then I think there might be some gussets for these pockets, but that's just non-stitch. So aiming to finish that off by the middle of the year at the absolute latest. It's being stitched, I'm not sure what the fabric is, I think it's 32 count, using a mix of sampler threads and silks. There's some water lilies and some soy crystals. These colours are mostly for the Bargello. I also have 103 in the kit, which I think is used in the assembly. And when it's finished into a pocket, it'll all be bound up in this twill tape. Right, my second WIP was also a class with Forget-Me-Nots in Stitches in 2013. It was the same weekend, and it is called Mistress L's Sampler. So the only picture I've got is this colour photocopy with the two halves. So that's the top, that's the first half, and that's the bottom of the sampler. This will be my focus piece when I have finished along the James River. As you can see, I've got quite a way to go on this one, as I've not even got a quarter of the way down yet. So this will probably see me out the rest of the year. And I've not worked on this for 2 or 3 years. It didn't come up in my large projects last year. So I'm looking forward to getting back to it. It's a gorgeous sampler, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of progress on this one. It is being stitched, can't remember if it's 32 or 36 count linen. And again, being Lauren, she was all about the colour more than the type of threads. So again, there's a mix of sampler threads. There's sampler threads. There is a Vera Soie, more sampler threads. So yeah. So that will be absolutely gorgeous when I start stitching on it. And then we jump ahead to 2016. I'll get that the right way up. When I took a class with Jackie Duplessis, and it's called September Morning, and it is this lovely little box, and there are various smalls to go in the box, which I have got one finished. It's a little pincushion. That was the only pre-stitching that Jackie asked that we got done before the class, so we could practice her joining method. I've got reasonable progress on the I'm still working on the box. I finished the large side panels, and all these flowers, they're over 1, which give you an idea of the stitching, but they are absolutely gorgeous and so delicate. So there's two panels for each side of the box. So that's these that go on the outside, and then there's some with just these little dots on to go on the inside. And then it's upside down, but I've been working on, I've got one of the end panels done, and I was starting to outline the second one. So I've got the 3 end panels to do, and then it's onto the smalls that go in the box. Again, I can't remember this linen. It'll be in the instructions somewhere. I've just not looked at it for ages, and it's all stitched in hand-dyed silk. So. Right, the next WIP is a class from 2017 where Bobbles offered up CMB 1759 as a class. Now, this sampler you could stitch in 4 different ways. You could either stitch it as a double sampler, like I'm doing, or one single one, and you could either do the coloured version, which Lauren had put together. Oh, sorry, this is by Forget-Me-Nots in Stitches. I can't remember if I said that. Lauren had done, or the original sampler that Lauren had reproduced was white work and all Palestrina knots. Obviously, I didn't opt for the Palestrina knots version and decided to do mine as a double sampler. Now, you have seen this year because it did work on it at the beginning of the year as one of my large projects, so it has seen a bit of progress this year, and I think I'm about at a third done on this one. I don't have a full copy of the sampler. I've got a series of photocopies of, so that's the top of the first side. That's the other side. I'll tell you that. I get a better idea. And then bottom, and bottom. So yeah, so let's say you did see some progress on this one. I think I got about 5 rows in. I think I was on the pomegranate. I know I was definitely on the pomegranates on that side, so I got those in. And I think from those pink flowers down. So yeah, some progress. That's all I can ask for. Inching closer to a finish. She's being stitched mostly in sampler threads, but there is one of Verissoir green. So very pretty colours. This is also from 2017. This is an online class I took with Jackie Duplessis through the Shining Needle Society, and it's called One Moment in Time. And again, it's another little sewing bag with a set of smalls. Each side of the bag, there's 8 panels for the bag. I have stitched 7 of them. They're stitched, I don't know how well you can see that. Each bag has an outline, a back stitch in soy saphine that is exactly the same colour as the linen, which is one reason it's taken me, I found it quite a frustrating project to work on, because there was an awful lot of ripping back on this one. And then it uses a couple of 103s and some overdyed silks. Can't remember what fabric count it is without digging through the pattern, but it all came as a kit from Jackie. So yeah, so you've got these main bag panels, and then there is some pockets on the inside. Now I really enjoy stitching the pockets because there was more of the embroidery, and then there's a set of smalls, which again will have more of the flower, the little flower panel. So yeah, so I've only got one more panel of the bag and the pocket to do, and then the bag, and then it's just the small. So I'm almost at the halfway point on that one, which is nice. So, and those are the, not going to take them out, but those are soy saphine and the 203s. threes. Right, my next, we're into 2018, is Contented Hours, which is a little basket and hussif, again by Jackie Duplessis. I took the class with her in 2018. Not a lot of progress on this one because I didn't get the kit until we got to the class. So all I have started is the handle, first bit of the handle for the basket. It just never seems to come up when on my wheel for some reason, or rise to the top of my projects. So it would be nice if that one were to come up, because that is only a small start. There is quite a lot of stitching in the rest of the piece. So it'd be nice if that one were to come up in my large slot this year, so I can move it on a little bit, because it's too nice a project to be sat there for much longer. And these are the silks. Absolutely lovely colours. Right, the next one is also from 2018, and this is Berthaya by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. I took the class with Nicola at Fobbles in 2018, like I said. You've also seen Berthaya this year because I worked on a bit towards the end of the year. Very slow progress on Berthaya. Nicola teaches this as a reversible sampler. I am not making it reversible because then I would never finish it, and she's too lovely. So I have a very small start at the top, and there is quite a bit to go. I think this is 36 count linen, and I am using soie d'Alger. In the class, Nicola was teaching us the techniques on a doodle cloth, and for a long time afterwards I was just working on my doodle cloth, and then I decided that actually I really needed to start the sampler, and then I can go back to the doodle cloth and re-practice the techniques when I get to that band, because otherwise I was just going to have totally forgotten how stuff worked by the time I got around to the sample. I probably would never finish the doodle cloth because I am actually trying to make that reversible. So yeah, so that's Berthaya. Hopefully she'll come out again this year and I'll get a little bit more progress on her. She's being stitched, as I said, with soie d'Alger. So there we go, get that out. And when I was working on her, I decided to channel Laura the serial starter, and I put a baby Grogu on my threads. My daughter bought one back for my son after a trip to Disneyland Paris with the school, and he decided he wasn't fussed, so I decided I'd use it as floss jewellery. Right, and now we're on to my last WIP for 2019. That is the From the Heart basket, pin pillow and scissor fob by Lois, who at the time ran Elegant Stitch in Modesto. She released these kits every year as a breast cancer fundraiser. This one is from 2003, I think. And I bought the complete kit. It came as a kit with the basket. The basket is sat on the shelf. It's not finished yet, obviously, because I'm still stitching on it. There was a set that had run over a few years, a bit like the This Too Shall Pass, if you've watched my last video. So I've stitched a needle roll, I've stitched a sewing pocket, I've stitched a pin cushion and scissor fob, and needle book with this, and this rounds off the set. So I'm quite looking forward to getting it finished so I can get the whole thing assembled Tell you what, it really helps with the FOMO when you're seeing all these exclusives and stuff, when you're looking at your shelves thinking, yeah, and I had to have that 20 years ago and it's still sat there. You know, it does help me resist sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. So, I stitched the little basket fob. I have stitched the pin cushion. And I have stitched one half of the basket band, so I have another half of the band to go, and then it will be done. We'll see if this comes up this year. I'm not sure if it does. It's all four-sided. You stitch the four-sided stitch. It's all surrounded by non-stitch. That does take me quite a while, so there is more than 10 hours stitching in this if it comes up in my rotation this year, but hopefully it will, and it'll be a bit closer to being done. So there's a lot of white perlé in that, and then it is using some, I think, Weeks Dye Works in Carnation and Thistle, and the linen is from Modern Crafts. Next WIP is Girls' Night Out by Kathy Barrick when she was Carriage House Samplings. This was a silk pack and chart that Kreinik released under the Remember the Ladies. If you've been with me any time, you'll know I finished my other Remember the Ladies kit, which was it's this thread fold by Mary Gary's Sewing Cabin this year. And hopefully I'll get that finished. Sorry, last year. Still not got my head around the fact we are now in 2025. We won't go into how fast 2024 seemed to go. I was gifted this kit and the linen by a friend who was over from the States, who I offered a bed to. It's all stitched in Kreinik Silk Moire, the milk paints, which is why they did the little thread kits, and it's 10 stitch over 1 on 36 count. Now this is R&R Reproductions Dawn's Early Light, and I think this is why it's taken me this long to, because I think the charts all came out about 2001. One of the reasons it's taken me this long to stitch it is the whole 10 stitch over 1 on 36 count on dark fabric. But I got stuck in when it came out for WIP Go this year, and went from only having about one motif up in the corner to having the whole frame done. So when it comes up again, I will be stitching the ladies in the middle. I think when I finish this, I might make it into a mattress pincushion, because I have loads of linen, so I don't think I'll get carried away and redo the border and stuff around it, but I've got plenty of linen to finish it as a mattress pincushion. Next up is The Beekeeper by Plum Street Samplers. I bought this when it was a market exclusive back in 2014. It is now on general release. Paulette released it after a couple of years. This was one of my medium-sized WIPs that didn't see a lot of progress because it had the misfortune to be called during September, when, and that's the start of the academic year, and my brain is thoroughly mashed, and there were quite a few nights I didn't stitch. So as you can see, I did almost get the B-skep finished, which was my aim. So I'm hoping it comes out this year and I can make a lot more serious progress on it. This is being stitched on 35 count Northern Cross linen, because when you bought it as a kit with the colourful Weeks Dye Works. So yeah, So hoping that will come up and I can get some serious progress on it, because I don't seem to get it. Whenever it comes up, I don't seem to get very far. Next up is a Mary Cox kit that I was gifted by a friend. It's Williamsburg folk art sewing box with accessories. So the friend very kindly gifted me the box, and I am working on the accessories. There's a little needle keep, pin keep and scissor keep there. And I got a fair bit done last year. When it came up in WIP Go, I have finished the needle keep. I have almost finished the angel. What I didn't feel up to when it came up last time was all the French knots on the angel. There are cream French knots on there, and I decided to leave them to the end. And so I just have the scissor keep to finish. So if this comes out, I should get this one to the finishing stage, which I'm looking forward to. So I think it's Weeks linen in a green. There's a cream silk, and I can't remember if they're DMC or sampler threads, the green and the black. My thread keep is from Kelmscott. I didn't say that when I showed the my strawberry for the from the Heart Basket. That's also a Kelmscott. Next up is one you saw a lot of last year. It is Teresa Wensler's The Guardian, because I was working on it. I was participating in the Year of the Dragon sale run by Fibre and Floss Canada and Hugo Stitcher. I was very pleased to get some serious progress in on that, especially if you remember I had to restart this one because I had started it with my linen the wrong way around. So here is my progress on Guardian. Mostly border and background, but I have just started getting the dragon in. Still a long way to go on this one. It is I'm hardly at a quarter of the way through it yet, but very pleased with how much I got done, especially plugging away at getting some of that background done, because I know when I've stitched other TWs that once I get onto the dragon, it goes quite quickly, because I enjoy stitching the dragon. The multitude of different greys and purples and blues and greens and browns in the background, not so much. But hopefully this will come up this year and I'll see a bit more progress on it, because like I say, still quite a long way to go. So I'm stitching this in some 28 count creamer even linen from my stash, or is it over? I think it's even weave from Stash. Couldn't tell you where I got it from. It's just, I think it's something I acquired off my mother-in-law, but when we cleared her house out. So, and it is using practically every shade of DMC, because it's a Teresa Wensler and that's what she did. Next up is the Scarlet House, a sampler grows. Again, you saw this during WIP Go. I didn't get as much done as I'd like, but I got a bit more of my house built. I'm stitching this in hand on quite a tight 40 die, 40 count. It's a Scrapper Lakeside linen, but it's Lakeside that was dyed on the Italian, the Graziano linen, so it's quite tight. It's pearlized barley is the colour. It's some I had left over for if you've been here a long time, you'll remember I stitched Dorothy Walpole, and so it's a bit of the linen that I had left over from stitching Dorothy. I'm stitching this in silks. I'm using the call for silks where I had them, because I have quite a large, reasonable stash of Avera soie and needlepoint silk that I've collected over the years. Where I didn't have them, I pulled the DMC and then went to see if I could match it to another silk that I already owned. So it's my own conversion for a sampler grows. So again, hopefully when it comes out again, I'll get a bit further on with it. I'm actually quite looking forward to getting the house in and cracking on with the rest. Next up is one that came out this year. She saw a bit of love. If you've been around a while, you'll have seen her a fair bit. It's Miss Hannah Coates by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. She is a very big girl. She's bigger than my board. You'll know I have the outside border vine done, and I'm working my way across the bottom because that is pretty much solid stitching. And when she came out this year, I got past the halfway point on the bottom. Still a fair bit of construction to do on the house to get the bricks filled in. Still quite a bit of grass to go down the bottom to get across the other side. The house needs a roof. I need to get another one of those birds in on that side before I can start moving up the sampler. She's being stitched on 40 count light mocha linen from Zweigart with the call for DMC. But very pleased to get a bit of progress on Hannah this last year. Hopefully she will come out again this year and I can get her a bit further on. Right, the last of my 2020 WIPs. This is the Drawn Thread and Open Heart. And this is my progress. She didn't come out at all last year, which is a shame because she's a beautiful sampler. I think she's being stitched on 35 count elegant bean linen with the call for MPI silks. A dear friend bought me the kit when the sampler was released in, I think it's about 2022. Yeah, so very much time that she was stitched. This is one of the few large sampler starts that is slightly further on than a start. I think I'm about a third of the way down the actual down the middle of the sampler. Obviously I've still some border to do. So hopefully, and the nice thing about drawn threads is when they come up, they stitch up really quickly. So hopefully she'll come out and I can get this one further on because it's too lovely to not have on my wall. Right, and now we are on to 2021 WIPs. The first one for 2021 is Sampler Cove's Quaker Hussif. I am stitching this on the call for 36 count navy bean linen from Lakeside because I had a piece in my stash. Using the called for Rosewood Gloriana. Now I'm using two different shades of rosewood because I had a skein in my stash, but I didn't think I had enough. So I bought some more, but of course 10 years apart, at least 10 years apart, probably nearer 15 years apart from when I bought them, there's slightly different colours. So the way I'm doing it is I'm using one of the skeins to stitch the motifs in the middle, the other skein is for the border. And this was where I got to. I had a small start on it when I picked it up this year for WIP Go, and I've got the top alphabet in. So, pleased with my progress. Need to see some more progress, as I keep saying. I'll be about, if you have a drinking game about the with this WIP Parade, about how often I say I need to see some more progress on this, I'm sorry, you'll be in a fair state when you get to the end. Next up is Black Magic by Just Nan. Now this is a piece that saw quite a bit of love this year. I was stitching on it just as I started the summer holidays. So here we are. When I picked it up, I think I just got one line of the over one done, and I think I just started on these corner ones. So this year I finished the second section. I've got the black outside border done, and I'm starting, because there's the border around the outside is over one, and I've started putting that in and made a small start on those motifs in the middle. This is being stitched on a piece of 20, I think it's 28, it might be 32 count random white linen that I had in my stash. And a good friend treated me to the silk kit, so it's using soie d'Alger and 100 threads. It's actually Just Nan, stitching Just Nan's that introduced me to 100 threads and all the different access commodity threads. There's also a linen thread in there which you use for this pulled band down the middle. So yeah, hopefully Black Magic will come out again. However, I'm quite happy that I made a lot of progress last year, so I would probably rather work on one of the ones that didn't get seen last year, so we shall see how. Pardon me. We'll see how we go. I've got the Flosstube itchy nose, and or the Flosstube sneezes. Next up, from 2001, is this design by Old Colonial Designs, a needlework garden and needlebook. I bought the kit about 2006. This is 2001. I've got the box. I've got the box for it again, sat on the shelf. So, and this is where I got to this year. I've got the bottom half of the box liner done. It's just a bit to go up and round, so if this comes out this year I should finish the lining, and then hopefully, I don't know if I'd get the needlebook finished, but we'll see. This is on 32 count summer khaki linen, and it's using a mix of sampler threads and Wix dye works. You saw that this year. I was very pleased with my progress on that one. I got all the over one finished on the base. Right, next one is another breast cancer fundraiser. This one was from 2008, and Jackie Duplessis worked with Lois to do a little scissor case called Pretty in Pink. And I got my outside of the case totally finished when it came up in WIP Go. So there is another panel of the case to go, and then there's I think there's maybe a pin pillow, there's a scissor case to go inside, scissor holder to go inside, maybe a needlebook, I can't remember, but there's a couple of bits that go on the other side of the linen. I'm not sure I was told what the linen was. The threads being used are green floche and I think a Gloriana, maybe. It just says hand dyed silk, but it stitches like a Gloriana. It's got the hand of a Gloriana. So yeah, looking forward to that one coming up again. See how far I get on with it. Next up is one you saw reasonably recently. It is Remember Me by Indigo Rose. I don't have the picture to hand because it's not stored with the with my WIP because it's in a box. The whole point of this one was that it was a cover for a photo album, you know, one of those ones that you slipped your pictures in. I have no need for a photo album anymore. It also dates this pattern if you think when we actually all still needed photo albums. So back to the very early 2000s. So I think I'll probably make it into some sort of sewing case. I haven't quite worked out how, but I'm past the halfway point on it because I've finished one side, the back of it, the spine, and I've just got the front to do. So very pleased with my progress on this one this year. Really managed to motor on with it. It was a great holiday project because it's even weave, it was easy to see without a magnifier, and it is just being stitched in DMC. So that's Remember Me. Next up is Birds of a Feather by Brenda Gervais with Thy Needle and Thread. This was a mystery sampler from 2011. I don't think it's in print at the moment, though I think Brenda did at one point. Canvas opinion on whether she should reprint it. Be nice if she did because it's a beautiful sampler. This one didn't come out at all last year, so I'm really hoping it comes out this year because I haven't got, as you can see, not got very far because I think I've done as much stitching backwards on this particular WIP than I have done stitching forwards. So I just have a little bit of the border. I've got halfway across the front top border, and I think I was just working down so I didn't have to move my Q strap. This is on 35 count grey linen from Weeks. And is being stitched with all the called for Weeks Dye Works threads. So yeah, actually really hoping that this one gets called this year, so because I really want to get a bit further with it. Last but not least for 2021, it is the Scarlet House Rachel Howells. Again, you saw this year, I did do last year, I did do some work on it. I'm at the moment working on just getting the border leaves outlined all the way around. So then I can hang everything else off the border, and if I need a project with plenty of some mindless fill-in, I've got plenty of that in those leaves. I just did not want to frog those leaves if any of those leaves if I'd filled them in all together, and I know how poorly I can count on occasions. I don't think I had an engineering degree, but there you go. You'd think I would be able to count. So yeah, so when I picked her up this year, I got, I think it was the bottom board, most of the bottom border in. I think it was about there. I got most of the bottom border in and made a start going up. So I've not got too far to go. So a good session will see the border outlined, and then I can start getting on to some more of the fun stuff. I'm stitching Rachel on 40 count cream linen from Zweigart, using all the called for MPI. Right, and now we're on to 2022, when I did have a bit of a start all the things year. So we'll go through what I did. So the first one that's still a WIP is Marianne Aldred from Needlework Press. I bought this as a kit when it was offered through the Homespun Needlework sampler group, but I believe Mary Ann is now available to purchase. So I did work on Mary Ann this year and got a good chunk done, in that all the leaves and berries on the border, they were mostly stitched this year. I finished off the berry bowl, got one of the Everyone stars in, finished one of the pear trees, made a start on the other pear tree. So very pleased with my progress on Mary this year, last year rather. Still getting the hang of that one. Mary is being stitched on 40 count vintage country mocha by Zweigart, and I opted, as I said in my last video, I go for the cotton option on these kits because it's a lot cheaper and I don't get stung for customs, or I'm much less likely to get stung for customs. So they're all classic Colourworks threads, but I think she's looking lovely. I'm looking forward to get to work on her some more. Do enjoy it when I get Mary comes up. The next WIP is another Just Nan, and it is Breath of Spring, which was Just Nan's 4th published design, or published sampler anyway. And I have had this in my stash for years, along with all the other seasonal samplers of hers, because I loved them when I first got into stitching, and I still do, and that in the mid-90s, and I still do. This was another sampler that saw quite a bit of love last year, and I am almost at the halfway point on that one. So I think when I picked it up, I just started those blue flowers, and I got several rows further in. Those pansies took a fair bit of stitching and reverse stitching as well to make sure they fit. I am stitching Breath of Spring on some 32 count Winter Move with the called for threads. So called for DMCs, there is one water lilies, and there's a couple of weights of Perle cotton on there as well. The next one is another Brenda Gervais. It's the Lessons in Abecedarian Summer Schoolhouse series. I'm classing this as a large WIP because I have the whole set. So I am partway through one. I have 2, 3 and 4, and I am stitching them over one on 28 count Mushroom Lagana. So I worked on this one a bit in November and got a little bit more done. So my house is almost built. I have quite a lot of things with the house almost built. I'm starting to get some of the other motifs in around, and it's all using the call for colours. Some weak dye work, some classic colour works, and some gentle arts. I really enjoyed this when I worked on it in November, so it'd be nice if it comes out again, but we shall see. So I'm classing it as a large WIP, even though it's a series of smalls, just so I get all the, because I want to get them all done. rather than just doing one and then the rest sit in the pile for forever, because I know what I'm like. The next WIP is another one that I've had in my stash for quite a long time. It is Sheepish Designs Remember Me, and the chart dates back to 1988. I think I got this one from Traditional Stitches when I was part of the Stash Enhancement Club way back in the early 2000s, and they sent the chart and some linen to stitch it on. So here is my progress. I am stitching this using the Call for DMC colours. They are very, very mellow, as you can see. It's going to be very, very delicate when it's done. I am tempted when I finish it to finish it as a large drum, but we shall see. The terrible fold in my fabric is about the halfway point, so I'm about a third of the way through the stitching on this one, somewhere between the third and the half, because I've still got a chunk to do down the bottom yet. But yeah, I made good progress on this when it came out for WIP Go, so we shall see. See what happens this year. The next WIP is Toccata number 1 from the Drawn Thread. This is another beautiful drawn thread chart. I think I've got most of the toccatas. I need to check. I know I've definitely got 3, possibly 4. I need to double check. I kind of lost track. This is from 2003, this chart, and I was gifted the chart and the kit by a good friend. I've stitched Toccata number 2. I'll have to show you that at some point. And I was very pleased with my progress on Toccata number 1 because I got past the halfway point when it came out this year. It's a very, very fun one to do because everything is just those, you just stitch in little squares. And each square is a different technique, which made it really fun to do. So it's being stitched on 32 count fabric. I'm not sure what the pattern calls for antique ivory, but I'm not sure if that's what I've got or not. Using a variety of different threads. There's some needlepoint silk, there is some water lilies, wildflowers, some Medici wool, some Londonderry thread, there's a Gloriana, there's a soie perlée. That is one of the things I really like about drawn thread charts, is just the variety of different things you do, and I love doing all the speciality stitches. It's a very good one if you actually want to learn. If you want to learn how to do lots of different stitches, do Stitch Adjust a drawn thread chart, and her instructions are second to none. So I'm kind of hoping that this one comes out this year because I'd love to get it closer to a finish. This is one of the ones of my large projects. I think this is one of the ones that's the furthest on. My next WIP is one from Ellen Chester of With My Needle. It is Quaker Hornbook. Now this was a chart that she offered this through guilds, and the Sampler Guild in the UK did an order with her, which is when I got it. And the chart came with the hornbook, beautiful hornbook. And I am stitching the over 1 version. Yeah, there were 2 different charts and 2 different versions. One you could stitch over 1 on, I think it's 32 count, or there was an over 2 version on 36 or 40. I'm doing the over 1 version, and I'm roughly at halfway. I've another few little motifs to do here, and then just an alphabet. So if it came out this year, that one should be a finish. I'm stitching it on a scrap of 32 linen from my stash. I have no idea what it was, left over from something, using a Gloriana Pacific Blue. and I really enjoyed stitching on that one. Made some quite good progress. So that one, if it comes up in my rotation this year, it should definitely be a finish. Right, the next WIP is Anne Grant from Shakespeare's Peddler, which is absolutely gorgeous sampler. I mean, it may not look it, but it actually got a serious amount of progress this year, because when I picked it up, I had a small bit of the outside red border and just one of the green, one shade of green there stitched in. So I've got the border all the way over to the corner and going down the other side, and got the flowers filled in. I absolutely loved working on that one, this one, and I really hope it comes up again this year. I'm stitching this on 40 count latte linen by Northumbria Sampler House, and I'm using most of the call for threads. Now, where I am not using the call for threads is it calls for a couple of thread gatherer silks, which I couldn't get in the UK. So I used the DMC conversion to change them to water lilies from my stash, because I have a large stash of water lilies and I have a large stash of Gloriana that I picked up over the years, and I don't have a large stash of thread gatherer because she's not routinely stocked in the UK. Right, if you watched my last video, you saw this one. This is Samplers by the Scarlet House. And you'll know I got a reasonable amount of progress in on samplers. Really enjoyed stitching on this one. It's such a lovely one to stitch. Hoping I get to stitch a bit more on it this year, but we will see. It's being stitched on a piece of 40 count light mocha linen with the called for Gentle Arts cottons. Love working on that one when it comes up. Really pleased to have made some substantial progress on it at last. Next up is Harvest Moon by Shepherd's Bush, which got worked on at the beginning of the year, and I did manage to make some serious progress on. This is one of about only the third or fourth samplers I ever bought, and I bought it in the mid-90s when it was a relatively new release. So I've had it a while. So this was a kit. And when I picked it up at the beginning of the year, I had just started this topper. So I got all that stitched and then got onto the fun rows below. So yeah, that saw some substantial progress, and it would be nice if it comes up so I can see a bit more. It's all being stitched in various soie silks. I say came as kit, and I think it's 32 count linen. Lovely to stitch on, love stitching Shepherd's Bushes. I really should get myself some more of theirs. It's a shame almost that they don't do their lovely samplers so much anymore, but there you go. They can only design what the muse prompts them to design. Next is one you also saw in my last video because I worked on it in the last month. It is Christmas Garden by Blackbird Designs, and I am stitching the sampler. And here is my progress. I say I got a fair bit of progress done. I'm almost halfway across the top now. Got all the border top border finished. I'd only about 3 motifs done on the sort of that little corner done, so I've sort of broadened it out a bit more. This is being stitched on some 40 count neutral linen from Zweigart with the called for over dyed threads. overdyed cottons rather than the sampler threads and classic colourworks. But I was really pleased to get a bit of solid progress in on Christmas Garden, and we'll see what happens this year. Then next up was Rosada Featherstone by Hands Across the Sea. This was a limited edition for Hobby House Needlecraft, and I bought the kit. So I'll make a note. I don't think I made a note of what the fabric is for this one. It's got worked on this year. Mostly I worked on the border, getting the border in, but I did get some of the motifs. I got this basket over here finished and put in this vase of flowers. Mostly I was working on the border because I'm finding the Valdani thread that Hobby House kitted it with for the border to be really, really hard to work with. It just shreds, and so I have to work with really short lengths. So I'm just getting it done. I'm eating my vegetables, as Carol Saltbox Stitcher says, and trying just to get that in. So I'm mixing up a thread of green in the border with then putting another colour in somewhere else, with a view to then I'll get onto the fun stuff once the border's done. But yeah, I saw some progress last year. Be really good if it could see a bit more. Right, my next WIP was a Petite Sampling Etui. This was another market exclusive in 2008. It was a collaboration with Cherish Stitches, Praiseworthy Stitches, The Stitching Parlour, and With My Needle, and makes a sewing etui. I don't have the finishing kit for this one, but what I did buy the time it came out was the materials kit. So I bought the fabric and the threads. And the threads, I'll tell you how old, shows you how old it is. They say Crescent Colours, not Classic Colourworks. Way back when. Can't remember what the fabric was that came with it, but as you can see, this hasn't been worked on since I started it. And so I have just started one of the panels, that panel there, and I just have the words in the middle of the, I think I had got further along and then started putting the surrounding greenery in and discovered I'd done a counting error. Surprise, surprise. So I really, really would like this one to come up in my rotation this year. The Tiny Decisions app works in my favour so that I can make some progress on it. Right, the last WIP I have left for 2022 is one of my all-time favourite samplers. It is Mary Betchell by the Scarlet House, and I just love the red used in this sampler. It is gorgeous. The reds and the greens. Again, this one came up this year. Again, I did actually feel like I'd actually made some progress on it, and when I picked it up, I got the border all the way done when I first started, and I think I'd got one or two of these red flowers stitched. So to be sort of halfway across the top and to have completed a good chunk of the border is really pleasing to me. I am stitching this on 40 count Avogadro linen by Fibres on a Whim, and I'm using the called for Belle Soyce silks. And the red that I love is Tulip. I just think it just glows. Absolutely love working on this sampler, so really fingers crossed, hoping it comes up this year. Right, and now we are on to 2023. The first WIP I started in 2023 was Elizabeth Broadhead by Fox and Rabbit. Now this was another one that was offered as an exclusive through the Homespun Needlework Facebook group, and I bought the kit then, and again I bought the overdyed cotton. It did get worked on a bit this year, and I managed to take the border all the way along the top, so I've reached the other side of the border and got a little bit done on this carnation motif on this side. So some progress, not a lot of progress, but some. I think when I picked it up, I just got a tiny bit of this border done, so it works. The fabric is 40 count white clay from Fox and Rabbit, obviously, and it's being stitched in a mix of Weeks Dye Works and Classic Colourworks, and there may be a Gentle Art in there as well. I absolutely love the sort of the teals and greys colourway. That's colours. That's not usually my thing with samplers. I'm a sucker for a big red house, but it makes a pleasant change to work on. Right, my next WIP for 2023 was the Strawberry Fields Stitching Bag and Accessories by Hillside Samplings. Now this was a class that Hillside Samplings used to offer before she retired, and it was offered as an online class by Janice of Traditional Stitches, which is who I bought the kit from, in the early 2000s when it was offered. As I keep saying, it makes it slightly easier when you think about how many of these things you absolutely had to have when they came out and you never got around to stitching for 20 years. Makes it somewhat easier to resist the FOMO. Not entirely, as you will see later on. It's being stitched using the Call4 DMCs. There's a couple of Perle cottons in there. And this is my progress. I've got the front of the bag stitched, so I will be on to the second half of the bag when it comes up, and then there are the accessories. And the linen is, I think, called Strawberry Crush, and I think it's 30 count, 30 or 32. But really enjoyed working on that. It's nice to get it a bit further on this last year, and if it comes up, we'll see how far I get again. Alright, my next WIP is Florence Mary Dickinson, which was a exclusive from Hobby House, and the Charters by Hands Across the Sea samplers. Again, I got the DMC version. So this is the called for Tabby Cat linen, and I am stitching it, stitching it with DMC. This didn't come out last year, so it'd be really nice if this would come out this year so I could get a bit more progress. All I'm really doing at the moment is working on my border, and loads of people I know have finished it, and it's an absolutely gorgeous sampler, and the colours are fantastic. So there's the DMC. Yep, it'd be really nice to get to spend a little bit more time with Florence and get her a bit further on than just that corner. Right, the next WIP is by Blackbird Designs from the book Honeysuckle Manor, and is Hannah Lavinia Joslin. This did see a bit of love this year, but not very much because it had the misfortune to be called for WIP Go in September when my brain was mush, so I didn't get a lot of stitching done. What I did do is a bit of the flowers on the border and get the hill in that the house sits on. I'm stitching this on 36 count Sparkly's oatmeal and using all the called for Weeks Dye Works and sampler threads. So it would be nice to get back to this one and get a bit more progress on her. And yeah, because I think if I actually got to spend more than, I mean, I was fairly happy with my progress. I think I got about just shy of 4 hours in September this year. Last year, so if she was to come up in my rotation, I get a full 10 hours in. I think I'd actually see some quite good progress. But there we go. Right, next is Stacey Nash is Bees and Birds Sewing Roll and Biscornu. This was another one I bought as an exclusive through Homespun Needlework, and I got the kit. And here is where I got to this year. So I had a small start on it, and then I got this whole top section done. I think when I started I just got a bit of border, so this year I got this whole top in. Lovely. I'd love this one to come up again because I really enjoy stitching on it, and it would be good to see a bit more progress, and it's lovely to stitch. So I think it's Weeks Cocoa Linen. I think it's 35, 36 count, and it's all the call for Weeks Dye Works. Next is a WIP I really want to come up this year because it didn't come up last year. In my rotation, it's the Scarlet House, a sampler for all seasons. And I just got a small start on that one. I just made a start on the sock box in the top corner and a bit of the border, and I would love this one to come up a bit more. Again, this was a exclusive with the Homespun Needlework Facebook group. It is now out for general release. The kit came with 40 count Steinbeck linen, and again I opted for the classic Colourworks cottons conversion. So I'd love to get a bit more of this one done, really would. Next up is another needlework press chart and Kirby. Again, this was an exclusive through the Homespun Needlework Facebook group, and I bought the kit. And this is one that saw a fair bit of love this last year. She got a good chunk done because I had to frog the border a couple of times, so I hadn't got much done apart from that. So I got a good quarter of the border fully finished, and onto the big house in the middle. So I was quite pleased with how much house building I got done on Anne. I think Anne is available to purchase now if you didn't get her as the exclusive. If she isn't, then I'm sure Vicky will be releasing it because she wasn't one that was flagged as remaining exclusive to the group. Really enjoyed stitching on Anne, and say helps I made some decent progress. It'd be nice if she comes out again and get a bit further on with her. stitching on the call, using the call for Classic Colourworks. And I don't think I've got a note of the fabric. I think it's Fox and Rabbit Hog Bristle, but don't quote me on that. Next up is the chart we were gifted, the kit that we were gifted at the Great British Sampler Weekend by Nicola of Hands Across the Sea Samplers, A. Robson. Now I'm stitching the little pillow to start with, but I think I should have enough linen left to stitch the sampler afterwards. So when it came up this in my rotation, I got the top of the pincushion started, fully stitched, and made a start on the next beat. Nicola gifted us the Averissoir silks for it. So, and it's Wood Smoke Linen by Tabby Cat, 40 count. And lastly for 2023 is one you saw in my last video. If you watched it, it's Hannah Wilson by Needlework Press. Again, this was an exclusive through the Homespun Needlework Facebook group. I'm not sure if Hannah has been released yet, but if she hasn't, I'm sure Vicky will release her at some point. This is an Ackworth alphabet sampler. And here is my progress. So I've got a good start on Hannah, but a fair bit still to go. It's being stitched on 40 count Eureka linen by Fox and Rabbit, and I'm using Dinky Dye silk. This is the one occasion where I went for the silk in the thread pack, just because it's 3 skeins of the same colour, so it came in a bit cheaper. It's Mud Flats is the colourway. I think it's looking gorgeous. Really enjoyed working on that when it came up in November. We'll see what happens this year. I did work on it for Black Sampler November, so we'll see how I'm feeling about my rotation at that point, and I might do something similar again this year. And now we are on to 2024. This won't take long because I didn't start nearly so much stuff in 2024. But one thing I did start for, I had a leap year start, and I decided to start Mary Gibson by Whilst Iris Snaps. Again, I got the kit when it was an exclusive with the Homespun Needlework Facebook group. And here is my very small start, because I think I just worked on it for one evening. So I really need this one to come out again so I can get some more done. It's being stitched on 40 count Thornfield with the called for Weeks Dye Works. So yeah, so it's a pathetic little start there. It's a start, I guess. Anne Grant was a similar style start before she got a bit of love this year. So hopefully my decision wheel will play nice, and Mary might come out to play again. We'll see. Next up was Catherine Finlayson, which I took when I took the class with Jeanette at Fobbles at the end of May. So really had a really lovely time at the class, and Jeanette is absolutely lovely. So I worked on her at the class, and then I had another stitching session at Fobbles, and I got the border finished and made a small start. Well, I stitched the little urn in the class because I needed that for placement of the border, and I made a small start on the alphabet. This is coming out, this is in this current rotation round, so we shall see how much I get done in its 10 hours, which should be coming up very soon. She's being stitched on 36 count Fawn by Pritchard this Plus, and being stitched in silks. So I haven't put all my silks on thread drops yet because I'm doing that as I start using them. Right, my next new start was I started in the summer in July at the Big Stitch. This was the design, the featured designer at the Big Stitch was Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery, and his design was this design, Big Stitch, Big Tree. So I purchased the exclusive and decided I would start it at the event, which I did. However, I'm not doing it as a red sampler. When I was doing some stash diving, I found this piece of 36 count Lakeside Heather in my stash that have been there since the early 2000s. When I was in the Silk Weavers Fabric of the Month Club, and when Lakeside first started dyeing, I think Silk Weaver was including them in their clubs. So I'm stitching this 1/2 with just DMC Bright White, and that's what I got stitched at the event, because I was working on some other stuff as well while I was there. I think it was Black Magic, but small start, and then we'll see how far I get before the next big stitch comes up in, not this year but next year. Highly recommend the Big Stitch if you are interested in going. It was a lovely event. And then we get on to my birthday start for last year. I put all my kitted samplers on a decision wheel, spun it, and what do you know, it picked out Ann Johnson, which is easily the largest sampler in there. So what's the girl to do but start it? I succumbed to Anne because I saw the model at the Great British Sampler Weekend, and it is absolutely stunning. I think the model was stitched on 56 count. Not yet. I opted for 46 count Thai iced tea, and there's a lot of it. She's not a small girl, and this was my start in September of this year. This is how far I got. I won't lie, I was finding the 46 count a little challenging, but what struck me is it reminded me of how stitching on 40 count for the first time when I stitched on 40 count for Dorothy Walpole. So, and now I stitch on 40 count, no problem. So once I get my eye in on this, I don't expect there'll be a problem. I think the same with 56 count, but I wasn't prepared to go to 56 count. Just I need strong light and I need magnifiers, and these are very focals, so you know, I've needed reading glasses since I was a kid, so my eyesight's not that great. But yeah, I was quite pleased with where I got to. I had got a bit further along and then discovered various counting mistakes, shocker, and had to do some frogging, including a mistake here. I started this line two rows down, so I'm going to have to compensate on the row below it. I've made a note on my pattern because I know I won't remember next time I pick it up. So we'll have to see. It'd be nice when nice to get back to Anne at some point and make a bit more progress, because she's a biggie, even with allowing for framing. And as always, I'm using the DMC for Anne to make the kit more affordable. I bought the kit from Traditional Stitches. So I meant to say this is an exclusive Hands Across the Sea with Traditional Stitches, but I do believe that Anne is still available, as I chuck the thread legend across the floor. And finally, the last one. This was a new start on New Year's Eve. In common with what seems to be virtually the whole of the internet who went to the Jingle Ball, I took Stacey Nash's class. I didn't stay up, the class ran about midnight my time, so obviously I didn't stay up, I just watched it back later. But the finishing doesn't look too complicated. I didn't get it started for the class, obviously. So this is what I'm currently working on in my rotation. I opted to stitch it on some Lakeside from my stash. See my previous comments around the big stitch piece about why I have Lakeside in my stash. I've used all the sampler colours up. I'm trying to find uses for the rest because hey, it's Lakeside. I don't want it sitting there. This is called Autumn Gold. It's 36 count, but I thought it looked reasonably gingerbready coloured. And here is my progress. I am at about 8 hours in. So I'm approximately halfway down the front of the house. I'm using the call for Winx Dye Works. So yeah, so I'm really enjoying working on this one. I'll be sad to put it down, but hey, other WIPs are calling. But then I'll be on to work on Catherine Finlayson, and I really want to work on her as well. So there we go. But that's you'll see my completed rotation slot in my next update video. So that is the end of the WIP Parade. I've been trying to put stuff away as I go, so the chaos isn't too bad, but it may take me a little while to edit this. So Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you if you stayed to the end. I hopefully won't be too long before my next update video. I'm going to see if I can update at the end of every rotation round, because that's only 4 projects, which will make it easier to film, and it's not going to be such a production, so I might be able to fit that in better, but don't hold me to that, because it may end up being February half term again. So yeah, so I hope everyone has a good 2025. Hope everyone gets lots of stitching in. I hope I get lots of stitching in, because I need to get some progress on this big pile of Mahusive samplers I like to start. Yeah, I need to get some of them done. I did really well last year. I got my WIP count down to 50, mostly by finishing small to medium stuff. So I want to about half my WIP count if I can. We'll see. So yeah, so thank you for hanging around. Hopefully I will see you again soon, and enjoy 2025. I cannot believe we are at 2025, because my head says we are just at the beginning of the 2000. It's only just been the millennium. How have we got a quarter of the way through the 1st century? Anyway, I shall see you soon, guys. Bye.